You know, there's this thing we all have, something we talk about all the time, our conscience. But have you ever stopped to think about what it actually is? It's way more mysterious than you'd think. So let's dive in and try to figure it out.
I mean, how many times have you heard this? Let your conscience be your guide. It's like the go-to advice for everything, right? You hear it in movies, from your parents, everywhere. But here's the kicker. Is that actually good advice? That's what we're going to get into.
And hey, this is not some fluffy New Age idea. We're talking about heavyweight history here. The great reformer Martin Luther, he basically staked his entire life on this very principle. So for centuries, we have put a ton of trust in that little inner voice.
All right, but here's where it gets tricky. For something so important, the conscience is, well, it's kind of a black box, isn't it? Dr. Gary Meadors, who studied this stuff, calls it an extremely complex and weighty topic. So we're told to trust this thing with our lives, but we can't even really agree on what it is. Now that is a conundrum.
So that brings us right to the heart of the problem, the conscience conundrum. What if this internal compass we all rely on, what if we've been reading it wrong this whole time? Okay, so Dr. Meadors throws a real curveball here. He suggests we need a total shift in how we see this. He says our conscience isn't a lawgiver, it doesn't make up the rules. No, it's a witness. And let me tell you, that one little shift in thinking, it changes absolutely everything.
So let's try a new definition then. Think of it like this. The conscience is a built-in feature of our self-awareness that just reports back. It witnesses what our own worldview and value system are telling it. You see the difference? It's not the source of right and wrong, it's just a mirror reflecting what you already believe is right and wrong.
And this really breaks it down. Look at the common view versus this new model. We usually think of our conscience as the judge and jury, right? The one making the rules. But in this new way of thinking, it's more like a security monitor. It doesn't write the laws for the building, it just sounds the alarm when a rule you've already established gets broken.
Here's a great way to think about it. Your conscience is like computer software, and that software can only do what it's been programmed to do. It's a total captive to its own code. Which, of course, leads to the most important question of all, so what's the code?
Well, that's what we're getting into next. Because that code, that programming, it's your worldview. It's the whole operating system of beliefs and values that you run on.
So here's how it plays out in real time. Step 1. Something happens. You see something, hear something, have a thought. Step 2. Your brain immediately runs that information through your worldview filter, your internal code. And then step 3, the last step, your conscience chimes in. It either sends up a little red flag, that feeling in your gut, or it says nothing. See? It's the last domino to fall, not the first one pushing.
You want a perfect, real-world example of this? Look at the story of Saul, who later became the Apostle Paul. When his code, his worldview, was all about protecting traditional Judaism, his conscience was totally clear while he was persecuting Christians. He genuinely believed he was doing God's work. But then, boom, Damascus Road, his entire worldview gets a radical system update. The programming is rewritten, and now that exact same conscience would be screaming bloody murder at the very things he used to do. It's the same piece of hardware, just running completely different software.
Okay, so this leads us to a really uncomfortable question. If your conscience is only as good as its programming, what happens when having a clear conscience is actually wrong?
And get this, the Apostle Paul, the same guy from the last slide, says something that should just stop us in our tracks. He writes, "My conscience is clear." And we'd normally think, great, end of story. But he immediately follows it up with, "But that does not make me innocent." Whoa, I mean, just let that sink in. He's saying a clear conscience isn't the ultimate seal of approval.
And that's the absolute core of it. A clear conscience doesn't mean you're objectively right. It just means you're acting in a way that lines up with your current values. Think of it as a system check, not a truth check. It can tell you if you're being true to your code, but it has zero ability to tell you if your code itself is flawed.
So what are we supposed to do with all this? If our guide can be this unreliable, what's our job? Well, that leads us to the most important part. Our task is to educate our guide.
This is probably the biggest takeaway of this whole explainer. Our job isn't to just blindly follow our conscience wherever it leads. The real work, the harder work, is to make sure the worldview it's based on is solid. We have to be intentional. We have to educate it.
And how do you do that? Well, it means you have to build your worldview on something real, something objective, not just your feelings. It means you actually have to think about your values. Why do you believe what you believe? You know, a weak conscience is basically defined as a conscience that just lacks knowledge.
So this is a lifelong thing. It's about learning, growing, and constantly fine-tuning that internal code to get it as close to the truth as possible.
So, we'll leave you with this one last thought to chew on. If your conscience is really just a mirror, what's it reflecting? What are you building your values on? Is it bedrock, or is it just shifting sand? That, right there, is the question that really matters.